is your relationship to Barry Weinman?
In what sense? I know who he is. I greet him when I see him. I've been at functions and dinners where he's been present along with many other people. I know him.
Okay, do you work with him on a regular basis?
No.
Did you work with him on the Dragon Bridge proposal that came before HCDC?
I was a board member together with other board members.
But you negotiated that with him.
No, I did not.
The thing I know is Ted Lieu went by himself to talk to Barry Weinman. He negotiated.
How do you know he negotiated? He says he didn't.
There was a meeting of this committee. He was on the committee too, I think. Or maybe he treated himself as, sort of an ex officio on all committees, because he had a lot of ex officio kind of power in this organization. So we met at Ted Lieu's office, and he reported, don't worry about a thing. I have contacted Barry. We have renegotiated this. And then he reported the terms of renegotiation.
He told us under oath he did not negotiate.
He did. He did. Not only that, but he went back a second time and negotiated a second time with Barry Weinman. I don't believe anybody else in that committee had contact directly with him. At that point, Ted was negotiating that deal.
He's met with Mr. Weinman before. As far as I know, it's business. Had seen them interact in the office at meeting.
At the time in 2006, what would you say your relationship was with Mr. Lieu?
We've had a business relationship.
Were you on the same China trip with Mr. Lieu?
The governor's trip to China? Yes, I was one of the about 130 people on that trip.
Have you at any time discussed the hydrogen RFP or hydrogen issues with Mr. Lieu prior to the RFP?
Before the RFP, I do know that the state of Hawaii was looking at alternate energy opportunities, and I had opinions about how they could be best developed. I think I may have had a conversation with him about that.
These are just the emails that we received from Ms. Okuhama. Early as August of 2006, there are quite in-depth conversations between you and Mr. Lieu regarding hydrogen. There are also reference to Chris and Ryan. Who's Chris and Ryan?
Excuse me?
It says here on page 8, Barry, first of all, thank you for seeing Chris and Ryan. They found the session with you incredibly helpful. Your email was very timely. I was thinking of emailing you on the same topic. I am responsible for the implementation of the governor's energy package.
Thanks for seeing Chris and Ryan. I'm not sure who that is. I spend a lot of time with students. I interview at least 2 to 4 a week.
So you don't recall who he was referring to when he said Chris and Ryan?
No, I don't recall.
And the second to the last page say, hope Chris found our session worthwhile. We were a bit tough on him, but tried to be constructive.
I don't remember the session.
Recall Chris at all? Was it a friend of Mr. Lieu? Was it a relative of Mr. Lieu? Was it a staff member of
I would
Mr.
just
Lieu?
be guessing. I have no idea.
Yes, Chris is my son. Ryan is his, he had a partner. They were trying to do a startup. They're college students. They were trying to do a startup and they had a business plan. I, trying to be helpful as his father, set up a bunch of meetings with people who I thought could give them some input into that business plan. I wonder if I sent him to Rob Robinson. I sent him to a whole bunch of people. Barry was one of them. Rick Cho was another one.
I raise that only because it seems like there's more than a business relationship when you read some of these emails. Was it a pure business relationship, as you have said earlier?
Yes.
Barry said at his hearing with you that we had a business relationship. That caught me by surprise, because we don't have a business relationship. That's his interpretation.
Senator, his relationship with Barry Weinman goes back to early in this administration.
It was Mr. Bossert that brought Dragon Bridge?
Yes.
Did Mr. Lieu have anything to do with it?
Yes. My understanding of it was Mr. Lieu was involved in putting the two of them together.
Okay. Well, Mr. Lieu has said he had nothing to do with it. Mr. Weinman said he didn't either.
I would doubt that.
I was asked by the director to develop a work plan.
Were you given direction by the developer?
Not explicitly in terms of how it should be done. He typically would rely on me, I think, to try to figure out what that's the case. But having had this discussion in a meeting at which Mr. Weinman was present, there were a variety of what-if scenarios, who could do what, and this and that. And I kind of took all of that in and tried to put something on paper that reflected some of that thinking. And this is what is referred to as being a draft work plan.
So Mr. Leo was aware that Mr. Weinman was interested in the fund.
Yes, I believe so. He was at the meeting.
The draft August 7th, 2006. When you were working on this, drafting it, did you know that Barry and High-Beam were interested?
I did. There was a matter of discussion in one of the meetings that you referred to that I was invited to. At the time, this is in August of 2006, the RFP had not been issued. The department was in process of trying to figure out what they're going to do with this legislation. And as part of that process, I think several of us, myself and Ted in particular, had discussions about how to deploy those funds. And those discussions were wide-ranging. They included, in the one or two meetings, a discussion with High-Beam, who expressed an interest to Ted, I believe, that might be interested in this fund.
If you go through all these pages as we just did, it started out innocent enough. There were names of different people and different companies, but then it seemed to focus only on Mr. Weinman and only on High-Beam. Did you bring it to the director's attention that maybe there should be other people specifically or other companies that also have this interest and they should be approached as well?
I don't recall making an explicit assertion like that. What I was tasked to do was to try to come up with some document that would describe an approach which could then be translated into a procurement action, whether that was a sole source under the procurement law and whether that would be an RFP. It was clear from the discussions that I participated in that High-Beam had an interest in the renewable hydrogen program. They had not only an interest, but they had indicated that this was in parallel with the desire to diversify their technology, build up strategy not only from life sciences into the clean tech arena as well. And so with that information and given the discussions that I had with the director, I was instructed to come up with an approach that could possibly incorporate High-Beam and their capabilities as part of a way that the state could move the hydrogen program forward. My understanding at the time was if we were going to go this route, that there would be a mechanism that would be looked at that might have done a sole source.
Because in some of the initial emails, Mr. Weinman was responding. He was talking about informality and talking about competitive bidding and so forth. But then it seemed to just go in the direction of High-Beam. So you're saying that was coming primarily from the director?
I think the director had an interest in what High-Beam had to say.
During those times, though, since you said you were aware of other individuals and other companies, do you know if those other individuals and other companies were aware of how this was proceeding from a work plan to an RFP?
I don't believe that they were.